and we'll get things started here. Jimmy, obviously driver of the number 48 Ally Cadillac DPI VR, star-studded lineup of co-drivers that includes Simon Pagenaud, Mike Rockenfeller, and Kamui Kobayashi, who still has the fastest time of the Roar so far, which he set yesterday in the first practice session, even though it said Simon Pagenaud. Actually was Kamui who did that lap. So if I could respectfully request anybody who's not speaking to please, anyway, with that, Jimmy, just if you could tell us a little bit about how things have gone so far for you guys. Certainly looks like there's a lot of speed in the car, and how the prep is here, day and a half into the Roar.
I feel like we're in a really good place. The team's extremely well prepared, and from a mechanical side and car side, we're right where we need to be. You know, things have changed quite a bit since I've been down here for this test session. The biggest thing is the lack of track time. Before we would come down and run for hours and hours and hours, and the drivers could rotate through and really get comfortable with the car and understand, go to work on ourselves in order to make up time and how to drive the car. It's far different. Kamui's only been in the car once so far. I'm probably the one with the least amount of experience, so I'm getting more reps in the car at this point just to try to help with my comfort and confidence in the car. So, on that side, I'm out there having a ton of fun, but certainly, trying to make each lap count because they are so limited, and trying to learn as much as I can personally out there.
Thanks, Jimmy. We'll go ahead and we'll open up for questions. Obviously, there's a lot of folks with their hands up already. If you have a question, use the raise hand function or let me know on the chat. I'll get over to you. Holly Kane, why don't you start us off?
Hey, Jimmy, how are you?
Good, Holly.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Generally speaking, you've been in the car a whole lot during the off season. I just wondered what that does for you in terms of, being comfortable, kind of being in that mindset between, being at the Roar and testing the Indy car, just, being so active.
Yeah, it's been really good. I mean, I feel like I've closed the gap a considerable amount on the IndyCar side. Still not exactly where I want to be, but I think I'm kind of on target for my progress in the limited days that I've had in the IndyCar. Been in an F3 car quite a bit, and that's been helpful and useful as well. And then some days in this car. So, my senses are in tune. Trying to figure out how to exploit the most out of each car is something that I'm still learning, and that's kind of the journey of being a race car driver. But all three cars are really different, and they each have little nuances that really extract lap speed out of them. And I'm trying to yesterday I spent time trying to get the IndyCar aggression out and trying to figure out how to finesse this car around a bit more. One, it's what the car wants and requires, but two, for a 24-hour race, you need to add a bit more finesse to your driving style.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Let's go to Greg Engel. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey, Jimmy. Thanks for joining us. I know we overuse the word excited in this industry, but you tested at Sebring this week, and here you are at Daytona. Now that the actual racing is creeping closer, how excited are you for this new next chapter to get underway? And I'll have a follow-up.
Yeah, definitely excited. I would say with that excitement comes some anxiety as well. I'm jumping into the deep end of the pool. If it's this weekend's race with the stacked field, not only just the stacked car that I'm fortunate to drive, but the stacked field here for the ROLEX 24, and then jumping into the Indy car and just how special the technique is in those cars, and the amount of aggression to drive those cars. I mean, at Sebring, I did some long runs, and I just couldn't believe the intensity you could bring every corner, every lap. So within that is a ton of fun as a driver, just from a pure experience standpoint in the car. It's out of this world, and even driving this car is that way, and I'm truly enjoying that. But the competitor in me, I want to be in the mix, but just need to be realistic about things and start building my laps and seat time and continue to close the gap.
How's this off season compared to your past NASCAR off seasons, your NASCAR Cup off seasons? Is not having all those NASCAR obligations somewhat liberating?
Well, I would say this has been the busiest off season I've ever had. I was in an IndyCar immediately following the season finale for NASCAR. And so the IndyCar team was CGR, the F3 team, and then this prototype. There's sim for the IndyCar and the prototype. There are seats to be fit and made for all three cars, learning crew members, teams, systems, meetings. It has been by far the busiest winter. And Shani and I joke all the time. Here we thought that I was slowing down, and it's been way busier than I've ever experienced from a standard November to January.
If you get the Rolex next weekend, who's getting it, her or you?
I look forward to figuring that out. I don't know.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have fun this weekend and next weekend in your IndyCar adventures.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Let's go to Nate Ryan. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Jimmie, I believe you are one of the two drivers in the qualifying race tomorrow. So just wondering, like, what's the strategy? What are you hoping to get out of that race? And what's the risk, I guess, of testing out setup stuff in race type conditions, but also avoiding incurring any damage on the car?
And we're in such a unique situation because we're not running for points. I believe the other 6 cars are running for championship points, and we're solely looking at it as a test session. If we were running for the endurance championship, I would not be qualifying the car. That'd probably be Simon or Kamui or Rocky. But to give me, more laps and to let me experience a Q session, that will translate into what I'm going to do in the Indy car as well with with a high downforce car. So we're taking a much different approach than the other teams. And then Kamui, with all of his success and experience, has not had much time in the car at all. So, we're looking at it as a test session for him and a chance to finally let him log some miles in the car as well.
And wanted to ask you, the steering wheel obviously has a lot of adjustments and settings you can make, all sorts of different wacky things. And Chase said he's not going to mess with it. He's just going to, whatever the guy before him has, he's just going to use it. You have a little bit more experience with these cars. What's your approach? Will you try to do any in-race handling adjustments there?
Oh, for sure. And I'm slowly becoming more comfortable with it, and I'll continue to push on Chase to twist some dials because there are many driver aids built in there. And I know it's a bit overwhelming trying to get your senses up to speed and your mind up to speed in the car. And then, there are some longer straightaways here, which are nice because you can complete your thoughts, look down at the wheel. We also have adjustments we can make on the panel to our right. So you do have some time here to get that done. I can say, though, on the IndyCar side, the steering wheel is very complex. The anti-roll bar adjustments that you can make are there, brake bias, but the straightaways are so short at that speed, and the way the gearbox lays things, lays out on the straights. I'm so impressed how these guys can make quick adjustments and continue to shift gears and not lose any lap time. That is something that I will have to work on in the IndyCar.
And then one more for you about the Rolex. Gary Nelson was saying that he feels like traffic will be the biggest adjustment for you and Chase, and just, figuring out how to maintain competitive times or just avoid incidents with the slower GT cars and everything like that. How do you approach that conundrum of being so much faster than some of these other cars on track?
Yeah, that is really the art of being successful in any 24-hour race. Thankfully, I've had experience in the past, and I know the areas where I've had success, and also know some areas I've made mistakes. But it's really tough because the lower division cars, their performance on the brakes and through the corners, pretty impressive, and we don't have much of an advantage there, if at all, to a pro level driver that's in one of those cars. So you form an opinion maybe on a certain paint scheme on a car. They're all very unique and stand out. And you can do one thing with one driver in it, and if the pro guy's in it or the best driver's in it, you get in trouble quick. So, yes, Chase and I have less experience with it, but it's something that we all have to deal with. And I'll just continue to tell myself that it's a very long race, not just a long race, just a very long race, and got to keep it on the road.
Great. Thanks, Jimmie.
Thank you, Nate. Let's go to Bob Pockris. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Jimmy, I wanted to ask you about Chase Elliott. He's your teammate here. You've been a teammate with him for a long time. Last year, we saw maybe a little bit more personality out of him, after Kyle Busch wrecked him. And then, when he wins at Charlotte in that truck race, he does the Kyle Busch bow. And we've just seen a little bit more maybe confidence in himself over the last 9 months. I'm curious if you've seen it and what you think. If so, what's made that difference?
I'm not really sure. I just know him. I wasn't aware of the more public facing things that he did. That sounds pretty cool. I've known him for so long in such a way that, he's still the same Chase to me. Just his ability to drive a car, what he's learned, how he's applied, all the things that you can draw from as a race car driver at Hendrick Motorsports, and the way he's been able to exploit it. Like I'm just more than anything just really proud of him, and he's been able to make stuff happen that I haven't been able to make happen. So excited for him. Seeing him get out of the car yesterday, it's very familiar. The big wide-eyed expression he has. I'm a few months ahead of him trying to get used to high downforce cars, but our conversation is very much the same with the more experienced drivers, and been trying to help him, with the small victories I've had so far and how to use the brakes and how to exploit lap time with downforce. I've been trying to share that with him, and he's adapting quickly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Jordan Bianchi, you're up.
Your former crew chief, Chad Canales, is here this weekend. I'm wondering if he's just kind of observing, or he's, kind of have an active role on the team, and if he's going to be here next week for the Rolex.
Yeah, he'll be here. He's ingrained in the team. He's assisting Ian Watt on the engineering side. And we do have some Hendrick Motorsports crew members here that are going to assist with tire changes and going over the wall and working on the car and stuff. So we do have some Hendrick Motorsports sprinkled throughout. It's been great to work with him. And he's been involved. I just left the transporter where my teammates and I were digging into the driver data, and Chad's running the computer, helping us find our way through and find the right settings to look at for driver data. So he's definitely ingrained in the team.
Is it a little weird working with him again, or is it just kind of, falling back into the old role?
No, it's awesome. There's nothing weird about it, and it's very meaningful to me, and I know it is to him, to be back, working together, and it's been awesome. I'm really, really excited about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. How about John DeGeese? What do you have for Jimmy?
Yeah, hey, Jimmy, we know that you have a lot of ambitions in sports car racing beyond this race, but what would it take to do additional races this year? Maybe something like Sebring or Petit Le Mans, maybe with this lineup?
Yeah, I think a good run here would help us quite a bit. It's really about finding the sponsorship dollars to do so. All four guys that are in the car right now have an interest. I'm not sure exactly how schedules lay out with the various divisions that we race in, but Action Express has the car and the equipment and the ability to do it. So hopefully we can find the funding and, add on a race, or, there's 4 in total for the endurance championship. And that would be, that possibility that, could be out there as well.
Thanks.
Thank you, John. How about Jenna Fryer? Thanks for joining us. Go ahead for Jimmy.
Hey, Jimmy, 2 questions. The first I want to clarify on the Hendrick aspect. Are they helping both cars?
No, just 48 car.
Okay. And it's a joint thing, right? Like the deal was put together under the assumption that Hendrick would help?
I don't know I don't know that, but the 31 cars running for championship points, their primary crew and personnel are there. And with Rick being involved, and all the people we have at Hendrick Motorsports, very talented race people, I think that's how they ended up there. I don't know the business workings, but the primary 31 car has, their primary people on it.
Okay. And then my other question, you are in this off season, you've gone from a stock car in November to an Indy car, which is fairly brand new to you, to reacquainting yourself to a sports car. What are some of the things you're having to unlearn and habits you're having to break?
The biggest thing is the amount of lap time that's created on the brakes in an Indy car or sports car compared to a NASCAR vehicle. the brakes are really the weakest link on a NASCAR vehicle, and we don't have a lot of downforce, and they're steel brakes, and you can just make them hot real fast, and everybody's kind of at the same spot. So you create lap time exiting the turn in a NASCAR vehicle. And then with the lighter downforce on a NASCAR vehicle, those straightaways, the gains you make on power really multiply quickly. So it's more center of the corner out. This downforce world's the other way around. The downforce cars hit terminal velocity very quick. So your opportunity to gain lap time on a straightaway is a much more condensed period of time, because we just kind of hit a wall in terminal velocity. And the technique of applying the brakes and then how you trail off them and throw the car at the center of the turn is where the magic is. And that's, it's easier said than done. And with data, you go out and you apply what you think is taking place, and then you come in and learn from it and realize you're not quite there, and just try to continue to go through that process and, make the senses and the feelings you have in the car match what the data is showing with the more experienced drivers.
Is there anything that you've really nailed and picked up quickly, and anything that you're struggling with?
Just knowing what to do in all situations. I find that I'm thinking about everything every lap, and I just know that that's hurting my flow. And there's certainly lap time in when that moment comes, when I just know my environment, know the car, know the tires, know how to bring the tires in and up the temp, know what to expect when they fade, know how to use traction control, where the roll bar adjustments are, how to use them, brake bias adjust, like everything right now takes such a conscious effort. We're talking about the steering wheel with Chase earlier. The steering wheel has various mapping positions that can help you with power down, and where is that? What channel? I've got 5 channels to choose from. So everything is just, it just takes so much thought right now. And I look forward to that just all flowing a lot better soon.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Yep.
Thank you, Jenna. We'll go to Ken Willis, and then we got another question or two. Go ahead, Ken.
Was that me? No.
Got a cool echo.
We're good. Trying it again.
Hey, Ken, maybe if you could just
All
type
right,
that and I'll read it for you.
all right. All right, Jimmy, if you can hear me.
There you
I'm
go.
just curious about you've driven this race. You've been here enough to realize what the garage area, the crush of humanity is out there when they open the gates during the test weekend, and especially during the race weekend. Does it, have you noticed, I assume you've noticed the lack of humanity opposed to normal years. And do you think does that take anything away from it for you, not having the normal atmosphere that we usually have here for the Rolex, with all the people, all the colors, and just all the pageantry? Or do you feel a little bit like something's missing?
Without a doubt. I mean, what's wild is how we're becoming used to this environment and the world that we're living in, and the precautions we need to take, and all that stuff. So yeah, it's not the same, but I'm very thankful that we're at track and we can still have the race. They still give out that watch at the end. So, in the competitive spirit of it all, nothing's changed there. But in such a marquee event in the pageantry that's typically here, it is different. And more than anything, I feel bad for the sport, and certainly feel for the fans that usually show up and support this great event as they do. Coming in this morning, I was excited to see we do have some fans lining the infield portion, and there was a line of cars trying to get in to watch today. So hopefully, we will have some presence, and some fans will be able to experience this race.
Thanks, Ken. Let's go to Marshall Pruitt. Marshall, unmute and go ahead.
Hey, Jimmy. It's
Hey.
been 10 years since your last Rolex 24 adventure. I thought it might be fun to get a bit of a compare and contrast from you on an old Riley Chevy Daytona prototype running 5 or 6 seconds slower than your 48 Cadillac DPI hot rod. What's different about the new car compared to the old and much slower car? What do you like? What do you dislike? What's different?
The ride quality in this car is really impressive. The bumps are so much smaller, and the aggression you can take to the car because of that is pretty significant compared to what I remember the Grand Am car having. I'd say but from off of memory, the biggest thing for lap time would be the braking stability and the potential of the car on the brakes. This car is quite impressive on the brakes. It doesn't have a ton of power. I mean, it goes plenty good, but the brakes really stand out to me and just how great they are.
Another dynamic I'd love to learn about is up until a couple days ago, you, Chip Ganassi, Scott Dixon, Marcus Ericsson, etc. You're all brothers in IndyCar. Now they're your first rival of the year in the DPI class, both in Cadillacs. What's that like? Do you shooting arrows at them? They're no longer buddies until after the Rolex. How does that relationship play?
No, I mean, we're family. There's been a few barbs here and there, but yeah, we're just racing. You know, it's so funny. I don't think that an endurance event, at least right now and at this phase of it, you really kind of zero in on a particular person yet. I think we're still all looking at ourselves and realizing that you've got to get through at least 22 hours before you go racing. So I think that true competitive spirit will hopefully show up with an hour or two to go, and it'd be an awesome situation to duel it out with the CGR prototype.
We need pranks though. Come on, man. 24 hours to fill.
For sure. No, there's been plenty, especially like on the management level, as I walk over to see Scott, some of the management folks like, oh, hey, competitor, can't come over here. So there's been a few for sure.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marshall. Let's go to Ben Johnson with Paddock Eye. And if anybody else had a final question, raise your hand or let me know in the chat. Go ahead, Ben.
Excellent. Hey, Jimmy, how's it going?
Good, real good.
Yeah, so just two really quick questions for you, Jimmy. Given that you've come from a couple of different categories recently, is there any kind of thing you do differently approaching the Rolex this year? And then my second question is in relation to Sebring.
Yeah, I'd say my fitness is much different than in years past. I've always enjoyed more of a cardio, more aerobic focus, and certainly just running or riding and just logging hours. And with the demands of the IndyCar, and certainly that carries over to the sports car, much more strength focused, much more interval focused. The cars, there's plenty of differences there, but maybe something I haven't mentioned yet today on this interview is just the training side is far different than I've ever had before.
Excellent. And then obviously with Sebring earlier this week, how beneficial was it for you to have the entire team with you at the test in IndyCar?
And to have all the resources, all the drivers, more cars on track to rubber it in. I'm just looking for these experiences to get me closer to what we'll see on a real weekend. And that was a good test in that respect. Barber last year in the fall, we were there. I think every car was there from the series. That was another great data point as well. So, literally every lap counts right now. And it's, even though I'm a 45-year-old rookie, being a rookie in today's style of racing with less practice, no testing, COVID restrictions, man, it's tough to be a rookie no matter the age.
Excellent. Well, best of luck next weekend, man, and hopefully you get out to see you maybe at some point this year. Take care.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Ben. Let's go to Matt Weaver, and then Bob has a follow-up. Go ahead, Matt.
Thanks. Hi, Jimmy. Got a kind of an off-the-wall question for you. I was talking to Santino Ferrucci down at Chili Bowl, and when learning about his transition to NASCAR, he told me that you were pretty instrumental in connecting him to some people to get him on the right footing. What do you recall of that first conversation with him? What do you think about him as a driver and how he's going to translate from IndyCar to NASCAR?
Yeah, I knew him in passing, and then through mutual friends, actually a couple different friends, understood that he was going to be in North Carolina, and I was out. I wasn't in North Carolina, so I couldn't catch up with him face to face. I can't recall where I was. Probably driving an F3 car somewhere. But after chatting with him and understanding, his decision, the opportunities that he has, I was like, man, I know some people that helped me in my career at that point, and now really specialize in that kind of stuff. So, Lauren Rainier is somebody that I worked with getting started in my career, and somebody that's very good at developing young drivers. I sent probably 4 or 5 friends that were young to him, and on top of that, it's certainly a sweet spot and something he specializes in, and seemed to be a great introduction between those guys. And I know Lauren's network of team members and equipment and cars and people, it'll be a great fit for Santino.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Let's go to Bob to close it out. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Jimmy, Allmendinger was saying the other day that, driving this race doesn't help you for stock cars, except just gives you more racing experience that makes you a better driver. I'm curious if you feel that way, and maybe if Chase had asked you, should I do this? Did you say, well, it could help you here, but not here?
Yeah, I think it depends on the lens that you look at it through. And, my example would be when I was a kid growing up racing dirt bikes, my dad, there's a 60cc class. This is the example of what we used to do, I guess, and I'll go through some of the specs and hopefully it'll make sense. But my age group and size, the 60cc bike was the intended bike to ride on. And my dad would also enter me in the 80cc category on a bigger bike, more power, heavier, all that kind of stuff, knowing I wasn't going to run well or keep up, but I was learning how to drive more power, how to handle the bike, jump further, and all the things that come with it. And it was sped up. And then when I got back onto my intended bike, things slowed down. There was less power. I could be more aggressive with it. And I personally really thought that helped me a lot for my intended, size of bike that I was racing on. So with that in mind, sure, these cars are way different, way faster, and all that stuff goes on. But when you get back in a cup car on a road course, I thought that it slowed things down for me in a cup car and really helped at least my eyes and my senses. Maybe not direct car comparison stuff, but it helped my mind.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. And with that, we'll wrap it up. Jimmy, we do really appreciate you taking the time to come join us here, and best of luck the rest of the Roar, including tomorrow's Motul Pole Award 100. And we'll be talking to you again next week, if not sooner. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Next up will be Aaron Thielitz and Jack Hawksworth from Vassar Sullivan Racing. So we'll fire that one up here in just a minute. Thanks again, Jimmy. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jimmy.